Okay, so today I'm going to give you about 4 different options on different decor pieces using Dollar Tree items. I probably have some Walmart pieces in there too, but some really cute and quick DIYs to do just to spruce up your house for Valentine's Day. I did find these votives. There were 2 that have hearts on them and 2 that are just pillars, and they're very, very cute. I'm going to start by painting the tall pillars with a white Waverly chalk paint. I did 2 coats with this, and it was super, super simple. Next, I'm taking some E6000 glue, and I'm going to glue the 2 votive holders together. Finally, I'm going to take some twine that I also got at Dollar Tree, and I am making some tiny, cute little twine bows. Just really quick and simple, just tying them around my finger, and I'm going to hot glue them to the candle holders. Project number 2 is a little bit tricky. I got one of these signs, and after it all fell apart, I ended up taking my orbital sander to it, and it ended up saving it a little bit. But I will show you what not to do first. So first, my first attempt was to just remove the glitter, and then I hand sanded it and painted over it. What I did not realize was that this whole front piece that's painted, it's a thin piece of paper. So you can imagine what happened when I put a bunch of wet acrylic paint on it. And yeah. So I went through a bunch of work. I painted the entire thing, did lots and lots of work on it. It was a bit frustrating. I'm a little bit irritated with this, watching it over again. So I painted the entire thing. I stripped it and did buffalo check pattern, and then as I took the last piece of tape off, I realized it was taking the actual paper and lifting it. So as you can see here, that is what happened. And then I realized it was starting to curl on the end, and I could literally just peel the entire thing off. It was extremely, extremely disheartening to put all that work in and have it just peel away just like that. It's beautiful. It's great. Anyway, so I took the orbital sander, I took it outside, I was kind of frustrated, and I thought, you know, what the heck, I'm just going to sand this puppy, and it worked. So then I ended up taking it outside. I spray painted the whole thing because I was really irritated at this point, and I just needed it to be white, and I obviously was just done, and I wanted this project to be over. So then I take some painter's tape, and I use the first piece as a base, and then I take another piece of painter's tape and lay it down just as a space saver. And then I go down, switching it back and forth. You will see in a second. For the second layer, I took some Waverly chalk paint in silver lining, and I painted in the stripes that are showing. I'm going to apologize right now if you can hear all the commotion. I have crazy kids in one room, a dog barking like crazy at the mailman, and we have Santa Ana winds that just started, so everything is really windy and really loud, and it's making everybody really, really crazy. So I apologize if you can hear the craziness. But yeah, so I took the silver lining Waverly chalk paint and I did 2 layers just to get a good coverage. I did a really light layer at first, and then I went back over it and did another layer. And I'm using a makeup sponge to do the painting. So I then remove the tape, and then I'm going to add the tape in the opposite direction, so going vertically. And now I'm going to switch it up. The first one is actually going to be the space saver, and then I'm going to put the next piece down, and then a space saver, and then the next piece down. So it's going to just do the opposite way, if that makes sense. I apologize if it doesn't. I then ended up just eyeballing it because the strips of paint were off a little bit and all the corners were off, so I just ended up eyeballing it. I then add 1 extra piece of tape at the base just to protect what I already painted. And then I'm taking elephant Waverly chalk paint, so Waverly chalk paint in the elephant color, and I am filling in the gaps now. I also do about 2 different layers. And basically you're just doing however many layers until you like the coverage. Then after that is all done, you are not going to remove the tape. Instead, you are going to just tape the same way you did the first time. And this time, because it was kind of off in regards to the sizing, I just kind of eyeballed it. After that is all taped off, I will fill in the remaining blanks with black. And I'm also using Waverly chalk paint in black. After the black paint is all done, I did not wait for it to dry. I just decided to see what my painting looked like, to see if this was even worth it, if I even saved my project. And it did pretty well. I am a perfectionist, so some of the little things, there was a little bit of bleeding, and it was a little bit irritating. But overall, very nice for my first time doing buffalo check. Then I printed out this heart on my Cricut, and I decided to see how it would work to use heat transfer material on wood. So I am using my Cricut heat press, and I designed a little decal to put onto my wood, and it worked out quite nicely actually. So again, I just used my heat press and I put it at a setting of 315 degrees. I set it for 30 seconds and it transferred quite nicely. If you like the decal that I designed, I am going to add this to my Etsy shop. So I will put the link in the description box if you're interested in purchasing it from my Etsy shop. Project number 3, I actually just folded a scrap piece of paper I had and I sketched out a really quick little heart, and I took a piece of pink felt and a Sharpie and I just traced my heart onto the felt, and I think I cut out 12 pieces if I'm not mistaken, 12 hearts. Then when I went to cut it out, I got really smart and I doubled up the color. So I actually have 2 pieces of felt together, and I'm cutting 2 at once. So then I had equal hearts in pink and white. Next, I took this little piece of cardboard and I just kind of sketched again another heart. I wanted this one to be a little bit longer, kind of off, not your stereotypical heart, but just like a long heart. So I just kind of sketched it onto there, and then I cut that out and used that as a stencil. So now I'm going to use that heart stencil that I just made, and I'm taking that same Sharpie and I'm going to trace the heart onto my cream colored felt. I also doubled up my felt here, so I ended up having 8 long hearts. So now I'm just freehanding some little tiny hearts, and I'm going to make enough to go on each of my long skinny hearts, so I made about 8. I took some little pieces of twine and I am gluing them to the inside of 2 pieces. So I'm taking 2 hearts and then I'm gluing a piece of twine in between the 2 hearts. Okay, so now we're going to do the fun part. We are going to use some yarn, and I have some white yarn here, and I am just going to stitch around the edges of the hearts. Next, I'm just using some hot glue to hot glue 2 of the tiny hearts together. And now I'm taking a gray yarn and I'm just drawing like a little star pattern in the center of each of the hearts. Now I am cleaning up my hearts just around the edges, and then I'm going to take those tiny little hearts. Actually, first I'm going to hot glue these hearts together just to finish them off, and then I'm going to hot glue the tiny little baby hearts that I made in a kind of pattern on each of these larger hearts. And now I'm just going to line them up and set them out so that I kind of know what type of pattern I want. And then I'm going to string them on a longer piece of twine. Okay, project number 4, I just took one of these Valentine's Day signs from Dollar Tree. I cut off that ribbon hanger at the top, and then I used a spatula or a putty knife to pry off this banner, which I will actually set aside and use later. So I tried chiseling off this paint, or this glue, but it is stuck on there so nicely. So, remembering back from my first project where I took my orbital sander to the piece of wood and it was a successful way of removing it, I took this outside and I did the same thing. The glue still stayed on there, but that's okay because I'm going to cover it up at the end. So, before I paint, I'm going to wipe off the entire board with a baby wipe to remove any dust particles that might have messed up or will mess up my paint. And then I'm going to start by painting my first panel in white. I'm using the Waverly white chalk paint. I quickly realized that taping off the next panel would be a good idea, so I do this before I continue. I am going for a distressed look, so I'm not trying to paint it perfectly, but I still wanted to tape it off. While the white panel is drying, I taped off the other side, and I'm painting that section, that farthest section, with an apple barrel paint in the color Antique White. This paint is definitely different. It gets the job done. However, it does take a couple more coats because it is thinner than the Waverly chalk paint, but that's okay. It was a good color. Not to mention that the paint is only like 56 cents or something crazy pants like that. So now I'm painting the next panel and I'm going to use another apple barrel paint, but I'm going to use pink polish. Again, I want them to look distressed at the end, so I'm really not very careful with the paint. I am not really trying to paint the edges because I think the more distressed each individual panel looks, the more, I don't know, the cooler it's going to look. I'm excited. Then finally, the last panel I painted in another apple barrel paint called Diva Pink. It's really bright and fun, so that's kind of what I was going for. So again, I tape them off and I paint the final panel with the Diva Pink. I think I probably did 2, maybe 3 coats of the apple barrel paints just because I really wanted a solid color, as solid as I could get, and then I will distress it later. So now I'm taking some 60 grit sandpaper and I am just sanding all the areas that I think, just sanding to my liking, sanding all around it, sanding in the center, sanding wherever I think could use some sanding. So then I decided I was going to try something out of my comfort zone and a little new. I decided that I was going to try to use this Waverly wax that I have. I have this wax and I've never used it, and it's called Antique Wax. And honestly, I've never used wax before, so I was just really hesitant to use it on anything. But then I kind of thought, I'm just going to try it on here. So I'm using a shop towel and I'm just taking little tiny, like literally as little as possible because I had no idea what I was doing. And I went around the edges with it and it gave it such a cool look, such the perfect distressed look that I could possibly have been going for. It was everything I thought it was going to be and more. So I decided to continue with that. So I took little tiny, like I said, I just dabbed it very lightly on just the edge of the bottle and I used that. And a little bit went such a long way and it gave it such a cool, authentic look. Like it almost looked like this was a fence, like an old fence. Super cool. So I did that to every single panel and I actually taped them off so every panel will look different. I didn't want them to look like they were all part of the same piece. I wanted them to look like they were 4 pieces, separate pieces of wood thrown together. So, and that is exactly the look that I ended up getting while I was using this. It was super exciting because I love using something new, and then to have it come out perfect the first time you use it is so exciting. So that's what I did. So here I just took a piece of burlap ribbon, which happened to be the same exact size as that banner that I took off in the beginning. So I just used my Sharpie pen to just kind of mark it off so I know where to cut it. And then I'm going to hot glue the ribbon over the front so I can reuse that banner. Now, I originally wanted to use those wooden letters you get at Dollar Tree, but they were too big for the banner. There was no way that I could arrange them to where it looked cute or uniform on it. So I ended up just freehanding the words welcome, but I did use those letters as you see at the top. I'm using those as a guide so that I know how to space out my letters and where to put them so that it looks centered. Then I'm just taking a black paint marker that I got at Walmart and I am going over each of the letters to make them stand out. Finally, I take my sign and I hot glue it to the center of the larger heart. And now I'm taking a piece of a thicker twine that I bought at Walmart. I have a nice big roll of it, and I'm using that to make my hanger for the sign. Overall, all of my projects I think turned out fantastic. I was really pleased with most of them. So please comment down below. Let me know which one was your favorite. I hope you enjoyed all my creations. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button so that you can get more updates when I do other DIYs. I'm really excited to do some more. So I have a few ideas coming up. Special shout out to Eli Home for watching and commenting. I actually checked out her channel. She has some really cute different DIYs as well, so you should check her out as well. And thank you everyone else for giving me some time to show you what I love to do. Have a wonderful day.